جعلناه سميعا بصيرا إنا هديناه السبيل إما شاكرا وإما كفورا إنا أعتدنا للكافرين سلاسل وأغلالا وسعيرا إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها كافورا عينا يشرب بها عباد الله يفجرونها تفجيرا يوفون بالنذر ويخافون يوما كان شره مستطيرا ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا إنا نخاف من ربنا يوما عبوسا قمطريرا فوقاهم الله شر ذلك اليوم ولقاهم نظرة وسرورا وجزاهم بما صبروا جنة وحريرا متكئين فيها على الأرائك لا يرون فيها شمسا ولا زمهريرا ودانية عليهم ظلالها وذللت قطوفها تذليلا ويطاف عليهم بآنية من فضة وأكواب كانت قوارير من فضة قدروها تقديرا ويسقون فيها كأسا كان مزاجها زنجبيلا عينا فيها تسمى سلسبيلا ويطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون إذا رأيتهم حسبتهم لؤلؤا منثورا وإذا رأيت ثم رأيت نعيما وملكا كبيرا عاليهم ثياب سندس خضر واستبرق وحلوا أساور من فضة وسقاهم ربهم شرابا طهورا إن هذا كان لكم جزاء ولا كان سعيكم مشكورا إنا نحن نزلنا عليك القرآن تنزيلا فاصبر لحكم ربنا ولا تطع منهم آثما أو كفورا واذكر اسم ربك بكرة وأصيلا ومن الليل فاسجد له وسبحه لولا طويلا إن هؤلاء يحبون العاجلة ويذرون وراءهم يوما ثقيلا نحن خلقناهم وشددنا أسرهم وإذا شئنا بدلنا أمثالهم تبديلا إن هذه تذكرة فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه سبيلا وما تشاءون إلا أن يشاء الله إن الله كان عليما حكيما يدخل من يشاء في رحمته والظالمين أعد لهم عذابا أليما. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة، فقلت وعليك السلام. قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا، فقلت له أوعظك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به، فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به، وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه، فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جد يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذا برسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن أعداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم إنهم مني وأنا منهم فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان السماوات إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
فقال جبرائيل يا رب أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق النبي واصطفاني بالرسالة النجية ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبين إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلا أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
فقال بي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق النبي واصطفاني بالرسالة النجية ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيه مهموم إلا وفرج الله هما ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غما ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Nice a lot.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
يا زينب يا زينب يا زينب یا زینب بسم اللہ بسم اللہ بسم اللہ بسم اللہ لقلم ثانی زہرا کی فنا بسم اللہ لقلم ثانی زہرا کی فنا بسم اللہ وحی و الہام کو تحریر ملا بسم اللہ باقی نقطے سے ہر ایک نقطہ ملا بسم اللہ آج یہ راز زمانے کو بتا بسم اللہ علم حیدر کا خلاصہ ہے علی کی بیٹی دوسری نہج بلاغہ ہے علی کی بیٹی سلام بنت علی سلام یا زینب سب مل کے سلام بنت علی سلام یا زینب سلام بنت علی سلام یا زینب آل زہرا کے لیے ثانی زہرا زینب اس لیے ذات الہی نے یہ چاہا زینب مستقل ہو تیری چوکھٹ پہ اجالا زینب تیری خاطر ہو نئے رنگ کا زہرا زینب بنی ہاشم کا قمر بنی ہاشم کا قمر بن کے ستارہ جائے تیری دہلیز پہ غازی کو اتارا جائے سلام بنت علی سلام یا زینب سلام بنت علی سلام یا زینب اور چونکہ پہلی شعبان کا بھی تعلق ہے بی بی کی ولادت سے ماہ شعبان یکم اور وہ نور زینب کعبہ حضرت زہرا میں ظہور زینب پنجتن ہیں اسی خواہش میں حضور زینب میری آغوش ہو گہوارہ طور زینب اس کی مرضی ہے مگر اس کو اٹھائے شبیر سب سے پہلے مجھے سینے سے لگائے شبیر سلام بنت علی سلام یا زینب سلام بنت علی سلام یا زینب ظلمت شام کی تردید ہے پہلی شعبان 3 شعبان کی تمہید ہے پہلی شعبان 14 معصوموں کی امید ہے پہلی شعبان ساری عیدوں کے لیے عید ہے پہلی شعبان عرش سے بن کے ولایت کی سفیر آئی ہے لیلۃ القدر کے گھر عید غدیر آئی ہے سلام بنت علی سلام یا زینب سلام بنت علی سلام یا زینب تو نے اس کت جو کہا ہو گئے عادہ خاموش صرف عادہ ہی نہیں ہو گیا کوفہ خاموش صرف کوفہ ہی نہیں ہو گئی دنیا خاموش ایسا صرف دنیا ہی نہیں عرش خدا تھا خاموش تعظیم میں خود تیرا گھرانہ چپ تھا سلام بنت علی سلام یا زینب سلام بنت علی سلام یا زینب پل میں ساقط بھرے بازار کی ہلچل کر دی ایک ہی بات میں ہر بات مکمل کر دی، وقت پر وقت کی دہلیز مقفل کر دی، دن کو معزول کیا رات معطل کر دی، خوف میں ڈوبے ہوئے دل وہ ابھرنے نہ دیے، سانس بھی روک دیے لوگ بھی مرنے نہ دیے، سلام بنت علی،
سلام یا زینب، سلام
بنت علی، سلام یا زینب، قافلہ فرش عزا کا یہ چلی ہے لے کر، 14 صدیوں سے خطاب اس کا ہے جاری گھر گھر، تازیہ جھولا علم آنسو ہے اس کا لشکر، کون روکے گا بلا شاہ کا ماتم اکبر، کربلا کا جو ہر ایک صاحب دل قائل ہے، اس کی تبلیغ میں زینب کا لہو شامل ہے، سلام بنت علی، سلام یا زینب، سلام بنت علی، سلام یا زینب، صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب، نہ ہوتا اللہ کا نام لیبا، اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب، نہ دین ہوتا نہ ہوتا کلمہ، اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب، حسین کا کام تھا ادھورا، اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب، حسین کی کون تھی شریکہ، حسین کی ہے شریک زینب، نہیں ہے کوئی شریک ان کا، اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب، تو کون عابد کے ساتھ چلتا، جدید نے اپنے طور پر تو لیا تھا بدر و احد کا بدلہ، اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب، نہ بجتا دین خدا کا ڈنکا، صحابیت کی نقاب چہرے پہ ڈال رکھی تھی اہل شر نے، اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب، دکھائی دیتا نہ اصلی چہرہ، یزید اعلانیہ تھا کرتا شراب نوشی سیاہ کاری، اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب، تو کون دکھلاتا حق کا رستہ، یزید تکذیب کر رہا تھا نزول وحی و رسول حق کی، اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب تو کون لگاتا حق کا نعرہ. تھے سارے حرص و ہوس کے بندے یا خوف و مصلحت کے مارے. اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب کہیں نہ ملتا خدا کا بندہ. تھے ساتھ یوں تو امام دوراں بھی اور اہل حرم بھی، لیکن اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب نہ ہوتی تسخیر و شام کوفہ. علی کی بیٹی نے ہر قدم پر بیان کیا مقصد شہادت. اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب تعارف کربلا نہ ہوتا. بنو امیہ مٹا رہے تھے تمام سارے دین یکسر. اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب معاویت پر نقاب رہتا. قلم فروش و ضمیر مردہ چلے تھے تاریخ مس کرنے. اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب شریف کہلاتی نسل ہندہ. یہ جتنے حافظ ہیں اور قاری ہیں سب پہ خطبات ان کے بھاری. اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب نہ ہوتا قرآن پڑھنے والا. گنائے کیا کیا فضائل ان کے یہ کہنا کافی ہے سبت جعفر. اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب نہ جانے کیا ہوتا کیا نہ ہوتا. اگر نہ ہوتی جناب زینب. سلام.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
کیا بتاؤں مقام زینب کا. کیا مقام زینب کا اسم اعظم ہے. نام زینب کا
کیا بتاؤں، اور میں تو کیا خود قصیدہ پڑھتے میں تو کیا خود قصیدہ پڑھتے ہیں، میرے بارا امام زینب کا کیا بتاؤں، سارے نبیوں سے کہہ رہا تھا خدا، سارے نبیوں سے کہہ رہا تھا خدا، دیکھا تم سب نے کام زینب کا کیا بتاؤں، چل رہا ہے عذاب کی صورت میں، دو جہاں میں نظام زینب کا کیا بتاؤں، اور ماتم شاہ یزید کا گھر دیکھ لو، انتقام زینب کا کیا بتاؤں، تیرا ہم سر نہیں ہے میر کوئی، کیوں کہ تو ہے غلام زینب کا کیا بتاؤں، محمد وآل محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
محمد وآل محمد صلاة.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. محمد وآل محمد بلندتر صلوات. اللهم صل على
محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا رحمة للعالمين أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. All praise and glory belongs to Allah, the creator of this universe, the one who has managed, created, guided, maintains all of his creation through one of his most predominant quality, which is Ar-Rahman. For every quality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is an opposite, but for Ar-Rahman, there is no opposite. And because of that quality, everything that he has created are completely and utterly dependent on him. And he does not look at his creation, whether that creation is an animal, whether the creation is a human being, whether that creation is a Muslim, whether that creation is a kafir, whether that creation is a mu'min, whether that creation is a fasiq, whether that creation is a fajr. He does not look at his creation that way because of that quality of Ar-Rahman. Therefore, he gives everything that is necessary for the existence of his creation. Therefore, they are dependent on him. Out of his complete mercy and love, he gave us an opportunity in this world, which is a very short time, to be able to learn something about ourselves which we were not able to do in the rest of the levels of existence that we were in. One of the things that I would like to talk to you about, I know you have gathered for the birthday of BIBI ZAINAB Alayha. She is also the embodiment of the qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is a great blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon us that we have the opportunity to even say her name through our tongue. It's a very big blessing that we know her as a personality, that we believe and we know the purpose that BIBI ZAINAB Alayha managed to accomplish in her life, and that we are all in debt to her. Recognizing the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then for the purpose that He has given you the blessing is what summarizes as being thankful. If we don't recognize His blessing and we don't utilize it for the purpose that it is given, then it is being unthankful and ungrateful. So to be able to understand the blessing of BIBI ZAINAB Alayha, there's one idea that I'd like to speak to you about. And it's sort of important if we understand it, and then after understanding it, if we remind ourselves, and also not just reminding ourselves, but live our life that way. I can tell you from quite a bit of certainty that majority of the problems or issues or stress or uncontentment or unhappiness or the weakness that we feel in our lives will go away. There's a particular verse in the Holy Quran, and that verse everybody has heard it once in a while from Moulanas, or there are some verses that we've heard it so many times that we have memorized those verses. But the ones we haven't heard that many times, we don't have it in memory. So I'll tell you, because you have memorized it, I'll tell you the English translation, and then you will see that you have that verse come up to you. So the verse says that every self, every nafs is going to taste death. So you got the verse? Kullu nafsin za'iqatul maut. That every self or every nafs is going to taste death. If I had water, I would give you a physical demonstration. It's coming somewhere else. So if you just look at the verse in itself, it says that every self, which means that every human being. Okay? This is not distinguishing one human being from the other. It's every human being is going to taste. I know you have your mask on, but you can still speak. Right? Every human being is going to taste death. So it doesn't mean that just us, Muslims or Mu'min or Shia, every single human being is going to taste death. No, the one who is tasting something, right, stays. The thing that they're tasting goes away. The one who's tasting stays alive. The thing that they're tasting dies, goes away. That's why I wanted water, right? So, if I say that I'm going to
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
I tasted water, right? As soon I'm right here, the water disappeared. Can you do it again? I'm right here, the water disappeared. The water did not taste me. So who died? Me or the water? Who died? Come on, no, I mean, you guys, it's part of this process, right, of learning. Who died? The water. When you taste food, what dies? The food that you taste. Whenever the one who's tasting doesn't go anywhere, the one who's tasting is powerful than the one that is being tasted. The thing that is tasted disappears, not the one that is tasting. So when Allah says that you're going to taste death, that means that you are a being that is eternal. If it was such that the death is going to taste you, then what would happen? Then we would die. Death would stay and we would die. But when you are tasting death, then the thing that you taste dies. If you understand that you are an eternal being, that you never die, you are the one who's going to make death die. You tasted death before. As soon as you got out from your mother's womb into this world, you tasted death. Who died? You or death? Death, when you look at the way that the world is looking at it as a material point of view, then you have the materialist. The material point of view is, this is the life you live, and after that you're dead, and that's nothing. That's it. After that is nothing else. You, as being who knows that this is not the end, that you're going to be transferred. Just as you were transferred from your mother's womb into this world, you're going to be transferred to another world. That is going to be the time when you are going to taste death. You never die. You taste death every single night. When you go to sleep tonight, whatever time that happens to be, It's a small death. It's the cousin of death, it's the sister of death, it's the brother of death, whichever you want to call it. It is death. It's a transfer. So someone who happens to be, let's say, my age, they have tasted death. I calculated once, but this is an approximation of 14,000 times. Why do I say that? 365 days in a year, multiply that by your age, and that would give you the number of days that you are alive, also the number of, let's say, the nights that you went to sleep, and that's the amount of time that you've tasted death. Did you die? No. But why is it that you don't believe that? Because if we believe that, then we would understand that for an eternal being, what are the requirements? What is the food of an eternal being? What is the luggage for an eternal being? What is the happiness for an eternal being? What is the place of being sad for an eternal being? We have only been looking at someone who is non-eternal and looking at the food and the baggage and everything else that is for a non-eternal being, not for an eternal being. You say, oh, I'm going to have my food, you know, your biryani or your paratha or whatever. That's not your food. It's like saying, I need gas. You don't need gas, your car does. When you say, I'm hungry and you want food, we still consider ourselves as non-eternal. Because the food that you eat is the physical food, it's not your food. Why? Because that food is for the things that are non-eternal. That goes to generation and degeneration. But you are an eternal being that doesn't go through degeneration and regeneration. You don't consider it, right? So when you start looking at an eternal being, what would be the food of an eternal being? The food of an eternal being would be eternal. Right? Quran and the guidance of Quran is eternal. It's without space and time. Therefore, the guidance of the Quran is for every era. It's not for just the 1400 years ago. As long as human beings are going to be on the face of this earth, it's an eternal guidance. It has come from an eternal being, given to an eternal being, transferred to an eternal being. Your Netflix is not food of yours. No, the movie that finishes in 2 hours or 1 hour is not your food. Your Twitter and your social media is not your food. Anything that is non-eternal is not for you. Everything that is eternal is for you. BIBI ZAINAB and her character is eternal. Her character is something that you need to and I need to aspire and be inspired by her to achieve that, to get those characteristics inside of us. Why? Because those characteristics are going to be eternal. They're going to stay with you and with you. Namaz is your need. You know, fasting is your need. Someone who is an eternal being who does not die, what would be the sickness of that eternal being? That sickness would be eternal, right? Yes or no? For an eternal being, what would be a sickness? Sickness, that would be eternal. Right? So, with any of these viruses or bacteria or these blockage of the arteries or any of this BP or any of these things, are those your illnesses? Why are you looking at me like, you know, you're dazed out? I'm talking about things from Mars. This is you. I'm not talking about any aliens. I'm not talking about Superman who is supposed to be eternal being coming from the planet Krypton and over here. I'm talking about you and I. Of course, someone who's eternal, their disease is going to be eternal. What happens to cancer? Who's, let's say, cancer has kind of gone down on the list now as being, something else has taken over. Now you tell someone you have that, they're like, okay, I'm okay. You say to someone, oh, you have got this, oh my God. And eternal beings, disease also has to be eternal. If we die, dying means transfer, not dying, right? All of the diseases or illnesses that we call that these are ours, they finish right at that time of transfer. They are not eternal. Yes or no? So there has to be diseases that we need to be careful of that are eternal, because we are eternal beings. If in our character we have lying, if in our character we have backbiting, if in our character we have deception, if in our character we have, tale-telling, if in our character we have these diseases, then these diseases will follow us for eternity. They don't die. They get transferred with you. And the same on the other side, if we're courageous, if we're pious, if we're righteous, if we're truthful, if we're forgiving, if we're merciful, if we're generous, these are eternal qualities that are going to stay with you and I forever. Why? Because these are the qualities of an eternal being. And these qualities will give you health, that is the eternal health. On the other side, lying and all that are diseases that don't end by the time that you get transferred on the other side. They go with you. Sins are those diseases that go with us. What do you mean? If you start thinking of yourself as an eternal being, look at how many problems are going to be solved. Oh, I don't have money, okay. For an eternal being, money is never an issue. Yes or no? I mean, money is going to disappear. I'm not going to disappear. If I don't have enough right now, it's not a big deal. I don't just have 60 or 70 years. I'm going to live forever. These dollars and cents, all they stay here, right or no? Like if you have $1 billion, if you have $1 trillion, after you get transferred on the other side, can you take this $1 trillion to the other side? No. If you have a bigger house or you have a smaller house, you have a bigger car or you have a smaller car, you have a big title or you have a small title. If you are a blue collar or you're a white collar, does these titles of blue collar and white collar get transferred to the other side? No. Someone who thinks of themselves an eternal being, for them these titles are of no concern. Having money or no money, being poor or rich is of no concern. Why? Because this is not eternal. It's not for me. See? All of your financial worries, would this stay? No. Who can actually be content? Nowadays, and also in the traditions, we have the biggest richness. How are you going to classify someone rich or poor? Look at them if they are content. If they're content, they are rich. If they're not content, they're poor. This is the criteria, not their bank balance. You can have a person who's rich, an eternal being who's rich, who have been given this information by the eternal beings as a criteria, who might not have the same amount of bank account than the other person. For example, if the richest person in the world is still uncontent, he's got all the money in the world, but still wants to have control over people, still wants to utilize his money to, make that sort of system in which everybody gets entrapped and everybody is getting cloned and everybody is like, being laughed at and a scam is being put over the whole world. Somebody is like that, they're not content. If they're not content, they're not rich. Right? If you look at the superpowers of the world, they're not content. Capitalism in itself is actually the biggest system that is for the poor. Why? Because you're never content. Even if you make 80 people who own 3.5 billion people's worth of wealth, they're still not content. They want to have their power hungry, their control hungry. They're doing all of this stuff for what? Just to laugh at us? Just to say, I've got control over you? I'm the dominant, I'm the superpower? All of this is a sign that this person is not content, they are poor. In front of an eternal being, these things are of poverty, not of richness. Well, how do we look at things? Right? See, when you consider yourself an eternal being, then slowly, you'll start understanding the design of something. And you will understand of the people in Kufa. You will understand the people who left Imam Syed Hassan in Medina. You will understand the reason how these eternal beings were raised by their parents. What was instilled in their minds and hearts. You look at the word ZAINAB, the beauty of her father. What was the beauty of her father? Was it wealth? Her father slept in that house on a skin of an animal that during the day, the animals that were inside the house, they used to feed from that. Their food would be thrown on that skin, and the animals there, they would eat from it. And at night, her father would turn it over and sleep on it. Then when you go into the house of her mother, you will not see appliances and you will not see all of these things that would beautify the house. You would find this chakki, one round stone that is still, and the other one you can move, and the grain is dropped in there, and then you move it, and then you can make flour out of it. What was the beauty that we think? What was that beauty in the house of Imam Ali and Bibi Fatima Zahra Sallallahu? Our way of looking at it. Did Imam Ali ﷺ's beauty was entitled? He said to me, like, this government is worthless. You want to give me the title of a ruler? Like, now that you have come again, you are the ruler, I'll come. But this government is worthless to me. This title is worthless to me. What is worth for me is that I am the slave of Allah and He is my master. Did he go after those titles? No. Because these are not titles earned. Imam is not a title that can be earned, like in the sense of, you can do some voting and you can come up with it and you can say, okay, this is my Imam. Right? Just like, because Imam is the representative of the Holy Prophet, is the Holy Prophet something that we can all agree on, this is our Prophet? No. The Prophets are appointed by Allah, and their representatives are going to be appointed by Allah, because it's not up to the people to decide. And that designation that is given, it's given by Allah. It's not something that you can like run after it. What was the beauty of Imam Ali ﷺ and the actual beauty, and what is our definition of beauty? Imam Ali Islam's beauty was knowledge. It was forbearance. It was the ability to forgive. It was patience. It was courage. It was being the slave of Allah. It was generosity. It was all of the qualities that you will find, the 99 qualities of Allah on banners and paintings in our homes. And Bibi Zainab beautified all of them. When people saw her, the beauty of the quality of shuja'at of Imam Ali bravery was beautiful. If the daughter is like this, how would be the father? If the daughter is that patient, how will be the father? If the daughter is that knowledgeable, how would be the father? If the daughter is that courageous, how would be the father? ZAINAB, the beauty of the father. When you have a father like Imam Ali, who is the perfect human being, right? The representative of Allah, the representative of the Holy Prophet, the most beautiful being, perfect being. And if there is someone who can more beautify that beauty, what can we say about her? But why is it that we haven't understood Bibi Zainab so far? Why is it that, yes, we have the tradition, this is an opportunity for us to be reminded of her. We come together, we wear our good clothes, we have our centers, decorated, and we say to each other, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed us. She is a blessing. But why is it that the character inside of us, how come we don't have that? The sixth Imam, okay, now I mentioned to you about the word Zainab. Look at our responsibility. Imam Masumi and specifically Imam Jafar Sadiq said he has said that Kunu lana Zainab, become for us as a source of beauty. ولا تكونوا شينا. كونوا لنا زينب, become a source of beauty for us. Look at the responsibility. The word Zainab, she beautifies who? Her father. Her father is who? Imam Ali Rasul. And what have Aima asked us to do? They have asked us to become a source of beauty for them. Who's our Imam? Imam Ali Wasalam, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussain, Imam Zainal Abidin, Imam Bakir, Imam Jafar Sadiq, Imam Musa Qazim, Imam Radha, Imam Taqi, Imam Naqi, Imam Hassan Askari, Imam Zaman Wasalam.
Muhammad Salawat.
Look at our responsibility. We're supposed to become a source of beauty for them. If someone looks at us and says, if this is the Shia of Imam Ali, then what would be Ali? وَلَا تَكُونُوا لَنَا شَيْنًا. Do not become a source of shame for us. And this is basically what we have become at the moment. Majority of us are a source of shame for Imam. Well, if the news goes of our fights in our centers, in our politics, internal politics that we play, if that news goes to someone else, do you think that we become source of beauty for our Imam? When they say that Shias don't pray namaz, maazallah, do we become a sign of beauty for our Imam? When these people who are come on the mimbar and they're selling the blood of Imam Hussain and people find out that there's actually auctions for these guys. You think that, we are becoming a source of beauty? When people are comparing, they're saying, politistic talk and sentences about Imam Ali, or that if he wants, he can, appear as Allah, and if he wants, he does it. And those people, do you think they're becoming a source of beauty for Imam Muslim? They are doing shirk. When on social media we're fighting with each other, and all of this social media is also being, and nothing is hidden for you guys nowadays. There's no such thing as privacy. When those people are arguing on social media, coming with jabs, this and that, and just wasting their time, those people who are monitoring or the ones who get the news, do you think that we become a source of beauty for Imam Muslim? Know this, that even if whatever that we end up doing, even if it's in the closed doors of our house, in the creation of the universe, nothing stays stagnant. Once it has been made, it is going to become the process of making something else, interacting with something else, sending and receiving information. If I do something in closed doors, I've started a domino effect that is going to keep on going until that thing that I've done in closed doors is going to become apparent in front of everyone. Nothing stays hidden. This concept of privacy, in Allah's creation, there is no privacy. Everything, all the time, your hands are going to bear witness, your whole body is a spy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we're afraid of the big brother, some of the things they might not know about you, but every single thing, can you do something without your body? Whatever you say, whatever that it is, it's been recorded. If you and I start thinking that, we are an eternal being, and what we need is things that are eternal, then we will start understanding, I'm a Masmin and BIBI ZAINAB, there is an eternal being who has given us all of the guidance and example as an example what is necessary for us to live our lives. BIBI ZAINAB is not just a role model for the women. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran, whenever He identifies as Maryam or as AZSA-WR, He calls them as a role model for alladhina amanu, the ones, the people who believe. It doesn't say the women who believe. That they are the example for every single one, whether you are a man or a woman, they are an example for you. Why? Because an eternal being doesn't have a gender. Especially nowadays, everybody's confused, 60 plus or something like that. They've made it. These discussions that we are having nowadays, this is, and we classify them as human rights and all that stuff, and it becomes such a sensitive issue. Soul does not have a gender. An eternal being does not have male or female. The being that is non-eternal, which is our body, which goes through generation and degeneration, this chemical reaction and everything else that it does happens inside, produces a certain psyche inside. And the physical difference. There comes the gender. So you cannot put it other than that. Oh, I cannot add, all of this talk that you guys already hear. Therefore, like for example, justice does not have a gender. Patience does not have a gender. Right? Courage does not have a gender. These qualities are non-gender. A woman can be courageous, a man can be courageous. A woman can be patient, a man can be patient. The qualities or the characteristics that were projected inside of the soul of BIBI ZAINAB, they are not gender specific. That only, oh, BIBI ZAINAB is a role model for our sisters, and she's not a role model for us. And in the social structure, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made male and female. To have a father, to have a mother. To have our progeny go forward. To have the responsibility based on that psyche for the social justice to happen. Not to do with eternal life. Can a woman get to the place of height of spirituality just like a man? Yes. Even higher. Why? Because there at the height or the different places of spirituality, there is no gender there. The BIBI ZAINAB is a role model for all of us. Moulana Syed Hassan ends up saying that in the example of the daughter of the Prophet, I have the best of examples. Moulana Syed Hassan wants to be like BIBI Fatima Syed Hassan. And BIBI ZAINAB from the right, Sani and Zahra. When you thought and your aspirations, they will become eternal, you will realize that a lot of these issues that we have among ourselves are not the issues that you need to be involved in. If you, contentment, you will get contentment. You won't. And the last point, and maybe I got you a little bit off-center because I ended up going in a little bit of different direction, but just understand that, in the world that we live in, it's going to make you believe that, this is it, everything is material, and you're going to be here for 60, 70 years, do whatever you want, get as much money as possible, get to the success and titles, and that's it. And that's not the case. Okay? It is the principles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us that we need to look at, but we will not be able to fully comprehend them unless we actually know ourselves that what we are is not non-eternal, we are an eternal being. If you understand that, then everything else is going to make sense. There's BIBI ZAINAB has done ihsan on us. Okay? She has done ihsan on us. And hal jaza'ul ihsan illa al-ihsan. Like one of the principles given to an eternal being is that isn't the reward or the compensation of ihsan but ihsan. What does that mean? Let's say you end up giving me a cup of coffee, okay? And what would be ihsan? Like, what would you think would be the ihsan that if I buy you another cup of coffee? I don't know. If I bought you a cup of coffee, if you bought me a cup of coffee, what would you think the return of favor would be? To buy you another cup of coffee. This is not a returning of favor. This is not the embodiment of hal jaza'ul ihsan illa al-ihsan. Why? Because if you bought me one cup of coffee and I buy you another cup of coffee, this is justice. When would it be Hal Jaza'ul Ihsan illa al-Ihsan? When I buy you 2 cups of coffee. Because if I only give you 1 cup of coffee, that's justice. That's not fair. But if I buy you 2 cups of coffee, then it will be Hal Jaza'ul Ihsan illa al-Ihsan. Was it someone, you were in difficulty and someone helped you in that difficulty. Next time, if they were in difficulty, you help them with their difficulty. Would that be Hal Jaza'ul Ihsan illa al-Ihsan? No. If you help them once, this is justice. When would be Hal Jaza'ul Ihsan illa al-Ihsan? When next time they are in need and you end up going and helping them. Someone says Salaam Alaikum to you. We are supposed to say Wa Alaikum Assalam Rahmatullah. Even in our greeting, if somebody greeted you with just Salaam Alaikum, you're not supposed to say Wa Alaikum Assalam and that's it. If you say Wa Alaikum Assalam, you've done justice. You have done an obligation, but what it has been said is that whenever someone greets you, greet them back with a better greeting. Someone prays for you, may peace be upon you. Right? We're supposed to say, may the peace be upon you, plus an extra thing, and the mercy of Allah. If someone says, Salaam alaikum wa rahmatullah, we're supposed to say, Wa alaikum wa salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Like when you understand this, as these are the principles given to us, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is for eternal beings, for social fairness and justice. We will get out of that frame of mind that we've been put in as what is human rights and what is fairness. But unless and until we become that, we will not be able to understand it. Like in our communities, someone does something like, someone does something good to you. The person will remember it for the rest of their life and they will keep on bringing it up. Oh, you gave me $10, I'm going to give you $10. This is not how the social fairness of an Islamic culture and community is supposed to be. Bibi ZAINAB has done ihsan on us. She has done a favor on us. In return, we have to do a favor, not just this. Look at the responsibility that we have. If you and I consider that Bibi ZAINAB has done a favor to us, then in return, we need to do a favor. I don't even think we have been just to her. Hal Jaza'ul Ihsan illa al-Ihsan. Have that in your communities. Have this in your household. So just because I started late, so that's why I'm taking a little bit longer. Right? Otherwise, it was supposed to be 7:40. I think 7:20. Wife cooks, Hassan roti, does the salan, right? And says, I've done a favor on you. मैंने तुम पे एहसान किया है, तुम्हारे बच्चों को पाला है, तुम्हारे लिए खाना बनाया है, तुम्हारे लिए सालन बनाया है, तुम्हारे लिए लॉन्ड्री की है, मैंने तुम पे एहसान किया. I've done a favor on you. The husband is like, मैंने तेरा छत दी है, I paid for the mortgage, it's my house, I earned all the मैं पैसे कमा के लेकर आया हूँ, जो तुझे चाहिए होता है वो देता हूँ. हर रोज अमेज़न की डिलीवरी आ रही होती है, ऊपर से जो है वो जब दिल चाहता है सोना चांदी ले लेती हो, हीरे ले लेती हो. मैंने कभी रोका है? मैंने तुम पे ऐसा याद है वो जब 20 साल पहले मैंने तुम्हारी माँ के लिए वो लिया था, उसने मुझे जोड़ा किया था और फिर मैंने भी किया था, मैंने उसको जोड़ा किया तो उसने मुझे वापस नहीं दिया था. Even this principle of hal jaza or ihsan illa ihsan, you can bring it in your home. Right? The wife should look at the favor that the husband has done, and just to do exact same as justice is not a favor. If she does more than that, then it is a favor. And the husband looks on the same way. These are not favors. हमारे यहाँ एहसान यानी एहसान जताते नहीं हैं. अगर एहसान किसी ने किया है तो उससे बेहतर करते हैं, ना कि जिताते हैं. ये सब जो हम जिताते ना, I did this for you, I did this for you, man, I did the laundry, I cleaned the, all of this when we, start putting this as a, when we are putting this as favors upon the other person, this is not the Islamic concept of doing a favor to someone. If you've done something good for the other person and you keep on recalling it and telling them that you've done this, you've ruined what you have done. If the wife keeps on telling you, I've done a favor for you cleaning the house, she's lost what she was going to get in return. If the husband keeps on saying, I've done this and this and this for you, he's lost if there was any sawab in there that he was going to receive. इस्लाम में एहसान को जिताते नहीं, करते हैं, और जो एहसान करता है उससे ज्यादा उसके साथ एहसान करते हैं. We don't have that in our houses. Therefore, we have issues. So now, look at yourselves as an eternal being. You never die. You only get transferred. If you know this, this is not your sickness. Anything to do with the body. It's not your sickness. Right? Even if it comes, it goes. It's not your sickness. What your sickness is the wrong ideas, the lying, the backbiting, the tale-telling, the anger. All of these are your sicknesses. If you have those, get rid of them. Why? Because you're an eternal being, they're going to follow you. And the example of BIBI ZAINAB is for every one of us. And how she is the source of beauty for her father, we're supposed to be a source of beauty for her. In our day-to-day life, consider that. And as an eternal being, you're supposed to be courageous. You're supposed to be content. You cannot have fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety is not a trait of an eternal being. Peace and tranquility is a trait of an eternal being. Whatever the circumstances are brought, no matter how wrong and demented ideas are presented to us, as what is success and what is human rights and what is the system, what is right and whatever is wrong, do not get those demented ideas. Why? Because these ideas are non-eternal beings. For eternal beings, these are not ideas, they are poison. And if we accept, it's going to last. It's going to go with us to the next. Okay. If you are against the status quo, you are always, kind of looked at as someone abnormal, non-rational, whatever. Who's made the status quo? The ones who have made the status quo. If that status is what has been given to us by the principles of Allah, then yes, we should not go against the status quo. But if the status is given to us through, debt and interest, through fear, through anxiety, through stress, through different types of definitions of success, of titles, of greed, of all of that, then that status quo is not your status quo or my status. Okay? Be courageous. If Bibi Zainab did not stand against the status quo, who was the status quo at the time of Bibi Zainab? Because you see, he was the status quo. Paying allegiance to him was the status quo. Accepting him as the Khalifa was the status quo, or the king. You believe in Bibi Zainab, you believe in Imam Hussain. When the status quo is given to you by the wrong principles and the wrong ideology, we're not supposed to just go with it. Okay? Find out what is the right. And inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless you. Don't be afraid. Don't be anxious. Regardless of what the situation is now, is going to be in the next year or 2 years, 3 years or 4 years or next 10, 15 years. Do not be anxious. Okay? Don't be stressed. Don't have fear. Fear is a response when you have your threat identified. Being anxious is a response when your threat is non-identified. Okay? But this response of fear and anxiousness is not of the eternal being. Fear is not for eternal being. Okay? Don't, because if you get more stressed, if you get more anxious, as what the situation is, you are weakening your body. And the more anxious anxiety is, when your threat is like, I'll just give you a small example and then finish it. If a lion comes into this center, we know the threat is right in front of us is a lion, the response would be of fear. Okay? If the lights are turned off and we don't know what's inside, what has come, a lion has come, a horse has come, a donkey has come, a fox has come, whatever, we don't know, the lights are off. Now the response is not of fear, it is of anxiety. And as soon as you turn the lights on and you say, oh, it's just a horse, then your anxiety will go. As long as you don't know, you're always going to be anxious. So when you understand that your true disease are the ones that I just mentioned, this virus or cold or cancer or BP, or these are not your true diseases. You don't have to be anxious about it. You don't have to be afraid. Why? Because they're only for these 60, 70 years. You're an eternal being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given that to you, and if He has given that to you, it's just a source of you to become purified of your sins. For us to be tested on our belief. There's silver lining to the disease. There's silver lining to every difficulty that comes. For an eternal being. Imam Mujtaba says, I don't know whether I should be thankful to you when I'm sick or when I'm healthy. Because when I'm sick, my sins are being forgiven. And when I'm healthy, I have the strength to obey you. Develop that thought process. Okay. Inshallah, may Allah bless you. And the precautions that you have today is precautions only a brave person can do. Not a fearful or anxious person. A fearful and anxious person can become OCD, can become paranoid, can have different phobias, but they cannot do precaution. Only a strong, courageous person can do precautions. Do your precautions, but out of courage, not out of fear or anxiety. Show to the people around you what your belief is. Become a source of beauty for others. Become a source of comfort and mercy for others in these times. This is the best opportunity. If you have your neighbors, Christmas has come. Yes, Hazrat Isa was now born on the 25th of December. Yes, the Christmas tree is 300 years old. One guy had these pine trees, couldn't sell it, put some lights on it and they started commercial retail made up Santa Claus, right? It was St. Nicholas, and maybe there was a guy who was very generous. All of the things that go, go circle around in Christmas and these days, yes, they're not, to do with us at the Salas. But that spirit that they're supposed to have of giving and giving comfort and of love, that spirit of giving comfort and love and being generous is the spirit of Hazrat Isa. That's also the spirit of all of the prophets of Islam. Nothing wrong with having that spirit inside. And show it to your neighbors. Give them some gifts if you want. If you have some, chocolate or whatever it is, ask them, do you need any groceries? I'm going out, just if you need milk, if you need any groceries, I'm going out anyways. I'll stand in line and get some for you. If they ask them how they are, if they're quarantined or they need to be in self-isolation, you as a neighbor should go and take care of the things that they need. And then if they ask you, just say that, these are the days of our Prophet. These days that you're celebrating are also, for us, the Hazrat Isa is also our Prophet. If you've associated these days to him, although you don't have to tell him, it's got nothing to do with Hazrat Isa. But he's our Prophet. I'm doing it out of love of Hazrat Isa. Have that spirit. It's a good time to shine. And these are maybe little things that when a person says, I didn't know that, you believe in Hazrat Isa, but yeah, we do. They don't know. You know that. Okay, you guys are not going to like me anymore, so it's okay. I used to get grade 11 world religion class. Okay? So world religion, they're studying there in grade 11. When they would come in, I would ask them, can you name me a prophet of Islam? And they would always say what? The name of the Holy Prophet. Okay. When I would tell them that he was the last prophet, and the first prophet was Adam alayhi, and then Hazrat Nuh, Hazrat Musa, and Hazrat Ibrahim, and so forth, as Yusuf, when I would tell them, this was a revelation to them. They did not know that. The Hazrat Isa, Hazrat Musa, Hazrat Ibrahim, Hazrat Yusuf, that they are my prophet too. The only thing they know, the prophet of Islam is Rasulullah. That's it. When you tell them that he was the last, it's a revelation. Why is it this way that we as Muslims have been living in the West for the last at least 50, 60 or 70 years? And still people do not understand the fact that the Holy Prophet is our last prophet, as the Adam is the first prophet. Why is that? It's an opportunity to shine, right? And let them know who you are. Inshallah, may Allah bless you. And BIBI ZAINAB, the favor that she has done, I'm not sure if anything in our lives we will ever be able to return that favor with a better favor. But that does not mean that we should not try. We should at least not be unfair to her of the example that she has given to us and the path that she has shown to us. At least we should not be unfair by being cowards, by being anxious, by being fearful, by having all of this stuff, because someone who believes in BIBI ZAINAB cannot have that. The one who fought against all of the atrocities, against all difficulties, and never had that fear or anxiety, we who believe in her should be at least not be unfair by having these emotions. You're an eternal being. Quran is your food. The words of Ayman means your food. Your qualities are the qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you will take forward. And if you take the other qualities, you will also take those forward. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and give you the wisdom and the courage to be able to implement and apply the teachings of the Quran, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps me as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relieve all of the people that are distressed, and the most distressed among us is the Imam of the time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relieve his distress. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the courage and the patience to be able to handle all of the circumstances that are in front of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from the true followers and the friends of the Imam. May he come as soon as possible.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين سيد المرسلين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا إمام الحسن والحسين سيد الشباب أهل الجنة. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. الأمان 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 فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك واجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك ورحمة الله وبركاته.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آله في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. There's also a request for Shifa for all those that are sick all around the world and the women women 5 times. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Amma yajibun ila da'ahu yakshifu su. Amma yajibun ila da'ahu yakshifu su. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى